Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which is entitled Devils in the Data, Using AI to Mitigate Operational Risk and Enhance Decision-Making. My name is Howard Walper, and I'm the CEO Americas at Commodities People. It's a pleasure to be here moderating this important discussion on behalf of our friends at ClearDox. So a big thanks to them for making this possible. Today, we're going to be exploring how AI-driven automation is helping companies discover risks in their unstructured data and throughout their supply chain. I'm looking forward to a fascinating discussion. Now, before we get started, just a few quick housekeeping points. We encourage you listening to ask questions throughout the session using the Zoom Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Use the Q&A, not the chat. We'll do our best to address as many of these questions as possible in the time that we have. We'll also be running interactive polls during the webinar. Your participation is highly encouraged here. It helps us steer the conversation, ensures we're covering the topics that are most relevant to you. So with that, let's introduce our speakers. I'll introduce each of them, and I'm going to invite them to share a bit about themselves and their roles at their companies. So let's start with Rick Nelson, CEO of ClearDox. Rick, welcome. Please tell us a little bit about your work at ClearDox.
Hi, Howard. It's great to be here. Thank you. As you mentioned, I'm the CEO of ClearDox, and I have many years of both commodities and software experience. ClearDox has some very exciting and cutting-edge technology, but what I enjoy the most is spending time in the markets with our customers. I like to understand their problems and then help them to overcome those problems through the use of technology, which of course is the purpose of today's webinar. So I hope everyone learns something and enjoys it.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rick. It's also a pleasure to introduce Chris Robertson, Vice President of Trade Processing and Head of Middle Office, who's from Vitol. Chris, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Howard. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're located. My name's Chris Robertson. I started my career in the accounting world about 25 years ago, starting at Duke Energy in the natural gas and power side. Moved on to Bear Stearns, which became JP Morgan. Then short stint learning all of the trucks and rail car stuff at Musket, and then joined Vitol about 5-6 years ago. And as Howard said, I head up middle office, which I joke is the stuff no one else wants to do, the contracts, settlements, the fun stuff.
Well, I think everybody listening today is interested in that part of the business because we're going to be talking about it quite a bit. So thank you. It's great to have you with us. Vinod Matthew, welcome. You're contracts manager for Vitol. Vinod, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Howard. Thank you. Well, I guess I'm one of the leaders of the stuff that nobody wants, as Chris put it. I am the contracts manager here at Vitol. I've been here for 4 years now. We handle all the contracts related to trading activity for Vitol here in North and South America. Prior to joining Vitol, I was at Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, and JP Morgan.
Wonderful. Well, we're really pleased to have you. And finally, last but not least, Reggie Wade, Futurist and Director at Veritas, a business of Oliver Wyman. Reggie, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Veritas?
Thanks, Howard. I have about 23 years of experience in the energy industry, and the last 15 years have been with the energy trade and risk management space. And for the last 6 years, I've been at Veritas, a newly acquired business of Oliver Wyman last year in July. And my focus is really helping companies to design and implement software, data, and AI architectures that really maximize their business capabilities and also kind of guide them through the turbulence of new technologies that are rising, such as AI. So thanks, Howard.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. Welcome aboard this conversation. Let's move right into the questions and get things started. So maybe we'll start with you, Rick. What are some of the most common but overlooked operational risks in today's commodity and energy supply chains?
Me or
Rick,
Rick? Sorry.
there you go. Rick, please, yes.
Uh,
I'm sorry, yeah, Reggie, I'm sorry. Reggie, go right ahead.
No problem at all. I think one thing that we see that's very, very common is that our systems aren't really bad systems. There's gaps between how our systems operate and how people actually communicate. Our systems speak structured formats, databases, AI, APIs, tables. But our teams, they communicate in very unstructured ways, emails, PDFs, voicemail, instant messages. And our systems aren't really designed to take in this unstructured data. And even 5 years ago, just to implement an OCR system that will parse a PDF or an image, it wasn't done with a lot of confidence. So I think these things are very messy, very human, but they are where the real decision making takes place in those emails and those voicemails. So I think that we have to really bridge the gap between unstructured data and our systems. And I think once we do so, I think that we'll have better confidence. And just for a quick example, look at trade validation. Deal might come in, via confirmation, via PDF, or even on paper. But unless that information is accurately captured into the ETRM system, there could be a mismatch where disputes may arise between what's in the system versus what's in reality.
Absolutely. Maybe Vinod, maybe you could share sort of a real world example of the struggle with these sort of risks before automation.
Yeah, Howard, I think to build on what Reggie was saying, one of the big problems for us is for our teams, they are receiving this data in multiple formats, right? As he said, unstructured. It is emails, but it's emails with PDFs, Excel files, um, the data being embedded in the email, Word documents, sometimes even, pictures of documents coming in, JPEGs, right? So you have to be able to have a team that can, one, recognize what's being given to them, then take that what's been coming from an external source, then figure out, oh, this is a trade recap, this is a broker confirm, this is a counterparty contract, this is an invoice. Then take that and find the corresponding information in their system, or discover that they don't have it, that there is a discrepancy, going through that. And then once they are able to pair this information, then go through the whole matching sequence, right? And this is all based upon a manual eye test, right? So depending on how good someone is, if they're not distracted, we're in Houston, so if they were at a long night at the rodeo that just wrapped up, they may not be as sharp as they usually are. So this leads to the risk of missing something, right? Sometimes it's simple, sometimes it could be something as big as a buy being a sell, and vice versa, or the 20,000 being read at, it should have been 200,000, right? So there's huge implications from that. And that risk of taking this data and then being able to match or identify the discrepancies quickly is the big risk. And being able to do that consistently and quickly, that's the major risk that one of the major risks we all face.
Um, Now, Rick, this one definitely is for you. Can you walk us through maybe a real world example of how artificial intelligence has transformed risk identification?
Sure. And I'll just follow on from both Reggie and Vinod. I mean, loved hearing, the focus and discussion around, the sources of data and the types of data from the bodies of emails, like chat feeds, the unstructured nature, so it's completely inconsistent data formats from a variety of sources, both internal and external. So that, I loved hearing that, because that really is, the issue that, at hand that we're addressing. As far as, real life use cases, Howard, it's, for such a relatively new technologies, there's many examples of real world applications, and they're wide ranging across, the entire trade life cycle. as we know, risk is everywhere. A couple common examples, duplicates, unbilled or missing invoices, missing trades, incorrect commercial terms, inaccurate accruals, compliance irregularities, KYC, tick, tick, tick. The list is extensive. There's just so many places where, where risk is hidden. And it's as a result of this is all this data coming from multiple sources in different formats. And how do you make sense of it? So, I have a couple of screenshots that I want to show that, will give, everyone a look at what this looks like and, how it potentially fits into an existing operations workflow. So what you're seeing right now is a screenshot of one of the many intelligent apps that we have on the ClearDox platform. Now, this one in particular is the Trade Confirms app. So each app has a pre-configured workspace. And what that does is it brings a 360-degree view to your business process. So as you can see from this, it combines all the associated documents, internal data, there's user dashboard, workflow, the reconciliation results right there with with the documents and data in front of you, and then collaboration that brings all that together all in a single workspace. So while this one in particular, this screen shows the Confirms app, there are other intelligent apps that automate and identify risk in other parts of operations. It could be in movements in inventory, payment processing, letters of credit. I mentioned KYC. So different, views for different, because it's different data, different workflows, different, documents. So different apps for those business functions. Now, the second slide that I have is what we call the multi-rec detail view. So this is where it's easy to compare internal data from, say, your CTRM to multiple supporting documents and data. Like Reggie mentioned, broker confirm, accounting party confirm, or trade recap. And you can view this into one combined single view where you can see and manage these exceptions. In this particular example on the screen, looks like it's an LC compare. So you see the BOL, the certificate of origin, the certificate of analysis, phytosanitary, it's multiple documents and data sources that we're, putting on this multi-rec and doing the multi-rec against each of these data sources. All clean data is automatically processed straight through, and it just leaves the exceptions, only the exceptions there to manage. And in this use case, it appears that there's exceptions there in the discharge port and quantity, and those are then the only things that need to be reviewed by an analyst. And that's the whole purpose of that, is to bring those discrepancies to light for the user.
Excellent. That's a really powerful slide. It just shows how much efficiency and gosh, and how much risk you can, how much efficiency you can gain, and how much risk you can identify. Before we move on to the next question, I think it's time to throw up one of the our first poll for today. What is the biggest challenge your company faces in managing unstructured data? It would be wonderful if everyone could take a moment to participate in this poll. We'd love to hear a bit about your thoughts. So while you're doing that, let's move on to the next question, and this one is for Vinod, for Chris, and for Reggie, who I know has worked across multiple clients and this sort of thing. When you launch a system like this, how are these new systems, these changes, introduced to the staff, and how are they received? How are they typically received? Both from Vitol's perspective and Reggie, from your experience with different clients. Would maybe Vinod, would you like to start on that?
Sure. I think the first thing is being transparent with your teams, right? Like, you have to be open and honest of what you're trying to achieve, because change is always hard for people. And so if you just throw a new system out there to people without giving them the rationale of what you're trying to achieve, why you're doing it, why you think this is the best way to do it, I think that's important. I think then getting their constant feedback, right? Getting them engaged into it and saying, okay, you've seen it. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to mitigate this risk. We're trying to be more efficient. Now that you've tried it out, what are you seeing? And people say, and you want to dig deeper, then, well, it's okay, or this or whatever. And especially if people have negative feedback, you want to dig into what exactly is it? It's, well, I like it. And it could be simple things. We've seen it where people like, well, I like the system does the data horizontally. I'd like to see it vertically. I like to scroll things. Little things like that matter to people because you want them to be engaged and continue using it. You don't want something that, oh, yeah, it's there, but I prefer my old way because it doesn't do that. And I think one other thing, last thing I would add is that having people kind of troubleshoot this is also very good, right? If you are trying to roll out a process that is 100% before you roll it out to your team, it's not as effective. Because what happens in that trial and error process is people then start to get invested into this system. They also, it's like, oh, that problem, oh, we need to fix this. And again, it may slow down the deployment of it, but over time they understand how the platform works. They understand the structure of it and the logic behind it, and then they start troubleshooting it, and they start getting a vested interest into it, and then you start people seeing them continue to be engaged in it, and then kind of start being the champions for it. Like they want to see more. Hey, can we do this and can we do that? That's when you've got them over. But I think doing those things of starting off with transparency about what you're trying to do, getting constant feedback, trying to get improvements, and then helping them and having them be a part of the troubleshooting and engagement and onboarding. I think that those are kind of things that help for a good um, uh, onboarding of a new platform.
And I think Vinod brings up a really good point where the way that Vinod rolled this out to his team, and ultimately we rolled it out to other teams as well, this is their system. This is something that everybody takes ownership of because of the way it was rolled out. We were surprised initially that some people thought, oh, they're rolling out robots to replace all of us. And so we spent a lot of time talking with people about, we're providing tractors rather than shovels, and we're getting you better technology for you to make your job more efficient. And also what we're doing is automating the stuff that we don't like doing. When you go through, as Rick pointed out, when you go through and you're manually verifying stuff, your brain wants it to match. And things such as a buy versus a sell, which is a huge problem because it's double reporting risk incorrectly, or things like delivery locations and all of those duplicate trades. Computers are really good at that sort of thing. But when we're looking through something, we see something that matches and a bunch of fields match, and it's like, that's good, let's move on, victory. And I think it's been very fun to see the group take this on as their own, see this as their product and their solution.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Reggie, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I mean, I think they said it all. I think transparency is key. I see two schools of thought. People are just skeptical that this is going to work, and then people think that it's going to solve all their problems. But there is skepticism. There is fear that this bot this agent will replace me. And how do we just be very transparent, and how do we lead with, hey, this will make us more productive? And as Chris and Vinod both said, that there are some tasks that are just better for computers to do. We don't want to waste our time. How do we get to a higher level of thought and doing other tasks that are meant for human beings than that? But I think this has to be really pushed out with a great change management process. Education is key. We are moving to a new world, and we have to educate and upskill our workforce on this new world. And I think that if we lead that way, I work with many clients, and they have a script, and this is what they do every day, and they hate deviating from that script. So introducing a new process really unnerves people, even myself. You get used to certain things, but I think it's being transparent and allowing them to walk with you, or you walk with them, enables them to have confidence in what we're doing. And with that being said, I think they will take ownership of that new process.
Before we move on to the next question, we've got the results from our first poll. The biggest challenge your company faces in managing unstructured data, and it is the lack of automation and manual processing. So that's the top choice. Inconsistent data formats and sources, a strong second, and then sort of tied for almost tied for third were the difficulty extracting actionable insights and compliance and regulatory concerns. So hopefully today's webinar can help address particularly points 1 and 2, and actually all of them. So let's move on. We were just talking about rolling out programs like this. Have you seen, or how have you seen this sort of technology affect the shape of an organization? So maybe Reggie and Rick might be well placed to address that. Has it changed the way the organization functions, looks, is structured?
Sure, I'll take a crack at that. I think the biggest and most common impact has really been on the scalability of the organization, being able to do more with the same or less resources. Chris mentioned shovels and tractors, so that makes me think of one of our long-term ags clients. They used to have this sizable, harvest team that was assigned to work long hours and late into the evenings during the harvest periods. And now with ClearDox, they're doing actually more business with the same team, and they don't have any after-hours work. Everything's been automated. The farmers are getting paid quickly. It's great for productivity, great for team morale. No one enjoyed this or wanted to do this, and it's obviously great for the farmers too. They get their checks faster. So, yeah, it completely changed the, it was a simple structure, but every harvest, the team from multiple offices had to congregate together remotely and get this work done after the regular's day of work.
I tend to see, I call it a decentralization of intelligence, or you can call it a democratization of capabilities. I think that LLMs and AI agents are empowering businesses and individuals to move forward towards a self-service model. You're not waiting on IT anymore to get that report done or to build us new view. With LLMs and AI agents, you're able to extract that data yourself via a conversational interface that you have. So you can get what you need on demand. You no longer have to wait for IT. So it's kind of like taking that superpower and not having to have a bottleneck of IT in the way to get that. I think also we're seeing a new digital workforce, which, like I said, can be scary, but you're having AI agents that are embedded in the front office, middle office, and back office, and they sort of act as digital teammates that support decision making. You guys seen Copilot? I think Rick or Chris is going to talk about later on how that sits there, even right inside Teams. You can change your password. You can do certain things that AI allows you to do. So you start to rely on those processes. And also, I think you see a shift from process-centric to agent-centric in the sense that you have operational workflows that are being redesigned around the capabilities of AI, especially like we talked about trade validation, reconciliation, and reporting, whereas agents can manage these repetitive, data-intensive tasks. And then last, I think that we're moving towards lean operations. This kind of comes from lean manufacturing, where we're applying these principles of optimization to operational workflows. AI can streamline the back and middle office functions, reduce manual touch points, and kind of drive towards a greater efficiency.
Excellent. Let's move into some really specific results. Vinod, for example, looking at your and Chris, looking at your operation, before and after this, implementation, how did what's different?
So one of the areas for us has been, broker confirmations, right? So validating, kind of reviewing what's coming in and being able to identify the risk quickly, right? And so when you think about it before AI, if there's 40, 50 broker confirmations, an analyst is having to look through each one individually, um, find the corresponding trade in our systems, then do a manual visual reconciliation to find any discrepancies. And you rinse and repeat all the way through to get through 50. And so that is hours of work, with, depending on the day and everything else, it could be 100% successful, or could vary. And the embedded in that is there might be risk, right? Number 48 may be the one that has the biggest risk, and the time it takes for you to get to 48 could be, half the morning, because other things are blowing up, right? So you have to get through all the good ones to find this one that's really the problem that we're all concerned about. Fast forward into a AI world, with ClearDox and other systems now, you now are able to send all of those brokers up to the platform, to the ClearDoc platform, be able to then instantly kind of pair match all of the trades. And taking that same example, the 50, you're going to see that the 50 already matched within seconds, and the 49 have matched, and you're left with the one with the big discrepancy, right? So that not only does it reduce the time it takes to get through the data, but you're able to quickly identify the discrepancy, and you have more faith that it's going to be a consistent product. That's what you see with just brokers. That kind of, time savings is what we've been able to achieve using AI.
Chris, did you
Chris?
want to add anything to that?
Yeah, the other kind of a macro view of how it changed our organization as a whole. We are in an organization that has, some of the best programmers in the world, and we've always built every program in-house. We even built our HR system. And so one of the things that this has done is change the culture where it's not a competitive advantage for our other counterparties to process things efficiently and accurately. We all want that. And so I think this kind of changed our view internally, that this sort of process changed our view internally into there are certain programs and certain processes where we all benefit by moving forward. And so it's been fun to change the culture where even our tech folks are now working on things that are more informational and trading driven, and they're having more fun as well.
Yeah, just to build on what Chris was saying, you can merge these external technologies with your internal processes. And to what Reggie was talking about earlier of how these things can change, we're taking data that, we're doing the matching and everything else using the ClearDox platform. We're bringing some of that data back into our internal systems, which are then leveraged by other teams in our world, who are then able to use some other AI tools that we've developed to help them process other areas just as quick, because now they have some reference data that they can use, which in turn has then led to people looking at, with all these time savings, you're looking around to see what other functions can we do as our teams can do to help out this whole process, this life cycle of trade, trade management. And so it's really not, as mentioned before, we don't look at this as a thing to reduce headcounts and things like that. We, as Chris mentioned, we have really smart and bright people. We're trying to get the most out of them, to use them wherever we can, because when you have talented people in your organization, your thing isn't to get rid of them. It's like, all right, well, if I don't need them for this, I've got other uses for them. And talented people will figure out a way to learn it and use and get that better. And hopefully they'll take some of the things that they learned in their previous role and see where AI application can be done, and look to add that in that new role that doesn't have it. And maybe it can be used in some other form as well.
And prime example, Vinod, is we redeployed some of our settlements folks to start working on natural gas actualization, where the the metered volumes are what they are within certain tolerances. And so we're not replacing people, we're expanding their jobs, and it makes it more interesting and valuable for everybody.
Wonderful. Well, I was going to go into a question about some of the measurable benefits. Actually, a question just came in from the audience, or more of a comment. So this would be for the Vitol guys and for Rick maybe to address. But got a comment saying Vitol is one of our counterparties. We're monitoring the ratio of incorrect invoices received from the counterparties relative to the number of deals with them. They list a ratio which is among the best. I don't want to get into any specific numbers, but it says these are some of the best, I guess, results we've seen. What role does ClearDox play in contributing to this success?
So
I can see Rick smiling. That's a really.
I'd be happy to take that.
This was unsolicited, so this is
We're all smiling at that one.
Yeah. So I'll say this into the, so that everyone knows, the invoicing part is kind of the end of that cycle, right? You invoice after things have moved, prices are known, quantities are known. But if that data that's in your system before then is incorrect in any way, then you're you're just back to square one. And where we look at this and where we've deployed ClearDox into our system is making sure that that data that we have in our system upstream, as soon as it's entered, is verified and correct. I tell my team, yeah, we're the contracts team, but we're in the risk mitigation business, right? That's our primary function. One of the ways we mitigate that risk is issuing contracts, but we're looking at all this external data that's coming into us, and we're trying to confirm that that data is accurate to what we have in our systems, and using systems like ClearDox to make sure that is correct. That not only helps for invoicing, but it helps the whole organization, right? Because that source data, that's the golden data, right? That's the source everybody pulls from, whether it's invoicing, credit, margining, everything flows from their accounting. So having something like ClearDox or verifying this data via AI assures that your downstream process goes as smoothly as possible.
Rick, did you want to say anything on that?
No, I think look, that's what ClearDox is all about. And it's not only, finding these errors and making sure that the data is correct, but also when, the reason that we have a suite of applications across the entire platform is that data is then not only used by the Conforms group or by the invoice, that data is used across the organization as the trade moves through the entire life cycle. So having it available, it's not just siloed within one group. So we have the ability to reuse that data across the organization in the different intelligent apps. So that's also an added benefit that's not just recognized by that one group, but within other groups within the firm.
Excellent. Looking across your different clients, Rick, what are some risks that maybe human teams, now that we've discussed this, so what are some of the things you've seen across clients about what human teams have missed, and where you found efficiency, or where you found buckets of risk, or helped eliminate buckets of risk?
I think, look, we covered a lot of them, and even I think it was Bernard or Chris mentioned, which I thought was a good way of stating it. The eye sees it as a match, and it's not necessarily a match. Absolutely, very human nature, and absolutely true. So examples, we covered a lot of them, whether if it's discrepancies with invoices or inventory statements, what have you. But I think what we're seeing, some of the more interesting ones, going forward when you use, like the ClearDox Copilot, is to identify things like list of potential sanctioned vessels, or identify irregularities in force majeure clauses. And these risks are kind of embedded or hidden in the T's and C's, and very, very hard to identify, in a timely manner, if at all. So those are, become, as the technology advances and the tools like the Copilot allow, really take you away from just the, you know, the numbers and the values, and take you into the T's and C's and pull that risk out as well.
Excellent. Well, I think it's time for another poll. So why don't we pull up our second poll here? What is your company's biggest priority when implementing AI-driven automation? Is it reducing operational risk, improving efficiency and cost savings, enhancing data security and decision-making, or ensuring seamless integration with existing systems? So while everyone takes a minute to vote on that, let us move into the next set of questions. And this one, let's start with Reggie and Rick. One of the values of AI is its intuitive, natural language accessibility. However, one of the risks is making sure that the question is presented in a way that produces the correct results, and that the results are apples to apples comparisons. Are methodological best practices emerging that result in really robust and repeatable results?
I'll take a shot at that as well. So
yeah,
all of us, whether if it's in our business world or at home, everyone has tested or used ChatGPT or other Gen AI models in some free form or ad hoc basis. You know, children use them, everyone uses these. They work, they're fantastic. But when it comes to a business application, what we're talking about, not here, and the risk associated with it, with this information, you know, ClearDox, what we're all about is we develop pre-engineered prompts, and these pre-engineered prompts have undergone extensive testing against very large data sets. And we fundamentally believe that that's the only way to produce, you know, consistent and accurate results. And, you know, it's not just about some ad hoc or free form using of Gen AI.
Reggie, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'll add. I would say that AI is no longer just for technologists. I think one of the most important mindsets is that organizations need to shift to make sure that we understand that AI just isn't for developers and data scientists. It's for everyone. And you look at a trade floor and look at Excel. It's a universal skill. Now you may know VBA, you may not, but you can get around in Excel. Most everyone. But I think prompt engineering needs to become a core competency for everyone. If you can ask the right question, you can unlock the full potential of AI, and that's something I think every trader, risk manager, scheduler, that should be a best practice. Just prompt engineering, just asking the right question, have action verbs, write this, explain this, evaluate this, not tell me this, or so you're having to write the right prompts that you're doing. I think another good practice is that how do you have these agent playbooks that sort of keep autonomy in check. As we deploy agentic AI and we seek the emergence of AI, we need to make sure that these tasks stay within their boundaries. That they have rules of engagement and they have clear escalation points. And that how do you also keep a human in the loop? So let's say, for instance, I add a new trade to the trade blotter, and this trade may cause a compliance issue, and so it just doesn't take action by itself. But hey, raise your hand. There might be an issue here. We need some assistance. So I think keeping a human in a loop is also a good practice for most organizations.
Excellent. And speaking of putting your hands in the air, let's see the results of the poll we just ran. What is your company's biggest priority when implementing AI-driven automation? Reducing operational. Let's see. The top one was improving efficiency and cost savings. It's followed closely behind by enhancing data accuracy and decision making. So a lot of the things that we've discussed today seem to be very relevant to what the audience is also experiencing. All right, so let's close this one out and move on. I want to leave plenty of time for questions because we do have quite a few coming in, so looking forward to that. What are some of the key performance indicators that businesses should track to measure the effectiveness of AI-driven automation in reducing operational risk? So what does success look like at the end of the day, Reggie, maybe?
Yeah, I think how do you reduce your error rate, just operational breaks? Are we seeing fewer trade mismatches, settlement disputes, or reconciliation issues? How does AI improve that data integrity? Also, the time for a deal to cash, that life cycle. Are we shortening that time horizon? Is it taking forever for a trade to get into the system, especially a physical trade, and for the logistics teams to schedule that trade? It's just sitting there. I know there was I worked with a hedge fund, and they had recs in the system, and they forgot to add the expiration dates. So the P&L was being inflated when those recs should have just went off the P&L, and that wasn't a good day right there. And then also accounting close time. How long is it taking us to close the books? Are we having all of these issues? I think those would definitely have to be monitored. And one last thing I think is at the end of the day processing time. Are you sitting there 3 hours, 4 hours at nighttime at home, running through the end of the day, running valuations, and it just, causing errors, and you're getting teams on phone calls late at night trying to get that report out for the next day. I think if you can really shrink that time horizon, that's a good indication that your automation and AI is doing very well.
Excellent. Does anyone else want to add anything to that point?
I'll just add a couple of things to that. One other thing is that you can look at is how quickly are your errors being identified, right? Because
Mhm.
if your errors are, as previous example, if most of the time you're finding the issues as you work through all the incoming documents, it's coming in mid-afternoon or later, whereas now you're able to, why weren't we able to find that first thing in the morning, right? In that first, 9 or 10 o'clock, where maybe that error could have been fixed with minimal impact on P&L. I think that's another thing. Another thing that's done the opposite way is finding these issues and then tracking how much that's been a savings to the organization, right? Like, hey, we saw this buy to a sell. Maybe there was no P&L impact because it's not moving for a while, but the fact that you found it now, right? That could have, who knows how long that would have sat. But the idea that it's being discovered now, having the, whatever, one of the things we look for with, sticking with ClearDox is being able to not only identify those issues, but being able to get that data to run KPIs, right? How long is it taking for things to be matched? How long are we as a team taking to get discrepancies resolved? But then also on the flip side, those of us in these, as Chris puts it, the stuff that nobody wants, yeah, your teams are looking at this stuff all the time, and God forbid you miss something. No one ever remembers the 100 other things that your team has found, but they'll remember the one that missed. And so it's nice to be able to use the KPI in a different way and say, you know what? Yeah, let me remind you of the 99 things we did find, and this is kind of the potential economic impact. You didn't see it because we found them, but just so you remember, the score is, and it's a good thing for your team as well, right? Going back to the earlier question, this is a way to help the team, because otherwise most of the time you have to manually track that stuff and all of those
Right.
things. But being able to track it that way, KPIs that way, is also it's a good motivational tool for your teams, and to show the effectiveness of the rest of us in
And
these areas.
and one of the things that Vinod's done very well in rolling out KPIs is you do have a lot of data. And one of the things that we discovered were the traders that were entering trades incorrectly, and going back and fixing those. Now, one could roll out those KPIs as a blame and shame sort of thing and publicize it. But instead, what Vinod did was started meeting with those traders specifically, worked on training, also worked with his analysts to know you got to double check these things. And we started seeing those traders get better and better at their entry. And also we didn't get into a fight over, well, all of your KPI is wrong and let's argue about that. It's right. And we got through it quickly. And so that's one thing to caution people on is it does give you a lot of really good information, and we are careful in how we use that.
Excellent. It's using technology to solve a training problem. Really, that's
Exactly.
Excellent. I guess before you jump into some of the questions we're getting from the audience, I guess just sort of a succinct one-line answer. Are there areas where human judgment will always be essential despite AI's progress? And Vinod, why don't we start with you and we'll just kind of go around the table on this one.
Yeah, I think for all of its advancements and as such in the technology space, you're still going to have to, as you go into more complicated documents, clauses, and other areas, I don't think the technology has gotten there to be able to be where you can just blindly rely on that. I think there's still going to be a human element that has to be there to kind of look at these things. And really, you want the AI initially to be at a high sensitivity, meaning you don't want it to, if it's it's not even a 50-50 call, like you really want it to be perfect, otherwise flag it so that you can take a look at it and over time you can develop a sense of confidence that it is identifying the issues that you wanted to. But I think initially at these stages, especially as you roll this out in different areas, you have to take a very conservative approach and rely and know that this isn't perfect. This is still stuff that, that's still happening. Google searches aren't perfect already, right? We've had those forever. So remember, things are still being developed in that. So that's what I would say.
Chris, how about you?
I agree. I think that sometimes people try to over automate, and I'll see somebody trying to program for all of these exceptions and things like that. We see it as when we hit 50%, 70, 80%, where things are auto matching, all of those are huge victories. And taking all of that work off where it's the simple stuff and it's going through and matching all of that, I think we always will need humans to look at things, even changing technologies where you couldn't have told us 25 years ago that landfills are an energy resource and that we're drilling in landfills to get biomethane. All of this stuff changes constantly, and so people need to help program the computers, help verify things. But I think we will never be at 100%. We never should be.
Rick?
Just to repeat it the same, the comparison to Google, my comparison would be to the autopilot and Tesla. Yes, it works well, but there are, we're looking to get to the 98, to the 99, to the 99.5, but there's always going to be some piece in the Tesla or other, you're going to be concerned about your life or the risk of your life. Here, the risk is not necessarily life, but is huge for the organization. So while that component will continue to get smaller and smaller, there is an element at the very end of the tip that's still going to require human intervention, human in the loop.
And Reggie?
Yeah, I would say there's a phrase that was coined, AI for precision, humans for wisdom. And I think that when you're taking a journey, the goal is not just to get to your destination. It matters how you get to that destination. For instance, if I wanted to create an AI trading agent to make me a bunch of money in the gas space, it can go out and do something like that. But guess what? FERC is knocking on my door. Hey, it looks like you're trying to corner the market. So we still need humans in the loop to be able to ascertain all the ethical discernment that is needed for these trading agents, these trading bots.
Wonderful. Well, we've got a lot of questions that came in from the audience. before we launch into those, or while I gather those all together, let's launch our final poll of the day. What is the biggest barrier to adopting AI-driven automation in your organization? Is it lack of internal expertise and understanding, budget constraints and cost concerns, integration challenges with existing system, and or uncertainty about ROI and effectiveness? So while people are answering that question, let's launch into our first audience question. As supply chains grow more complex amid increasing climate and geopolitical uncertainty, how will automation and AI evolve to keep up with emerging risks? So I'll throw that open to anyone to take.
Well, I can give it a shot.
All right.
I think our risks will grow with AI. Just garbage in, garbage out. As we increase in the ingestion of data, we got to be careful that our models aren't corrupted with this. We need benchmarks. We need human fairness, human bias, fairness models that can really help to validate these models and make sure that, like I said, humans are always kept in the loop. But I think that we may turn up, get into more risk later on because of these models. But we need AI ethicists, and organizations that can really help us to look at these models to make sure they're not causing harm.
Excellent. Another one that came in. How does this sort of automation work with existing risk management platforms?
I'll just take a quick one on that. I mean, intelligent apps, or at least from our perspective, ClearDox, they don't work alone. Instead, they work in conjunction with other industry software solutions, CTRM systems, internal trading systems, other sources of company data. The apps work very well themselves, ingesting data from all types and formats, structured, unstructured, table from all sources, spreadsheets, database, ice chat feeds. But to be part of that trade life cycle, they've got to normalize it and enrich it and give it context to the business itself and the systems like the trading systems. So all of our customers have use CTRM or trading system data alongside with the intelligent apps from ClearDox.
And Howard, quickly,
yes,
to both of those questions, I think everyone should realize that when they're deploying AI or looking for it, they have to identify the risk that they're trying to mitigate, right? But then also build it out in such a way that the industry and everyone is still evolving, right? The AI is still evolving. So, you don't need to have, as Chris said, a solution that solves every problem, right? You just need to, hey, I have this particular risk of getting this data. I want to match it. I want to take the human element out of this part of it because that's open for risk. Build something to solve that problem that can be used widely by all of your external counterparties, right? And then if the industry changes, you can adjust that as well if other things come about. But that's, I think, is one of the things to remember with AI. It doesn't have to be a big bang of all over all over your supply chain or your life cycles or everything. It can start small.
excellent. This one came in and is addressing the unstructured data problem. Can you share any insights on tackling the unstructured data problem further upstream through, for example, an API with your supplier or counterparty to get the data that's inside the PDF? So I assume there's a number of different people you're working with. I'm guessing that it would be difficult to get everybody to sort of cooperate, use the same protocol, same system. Is that a correct assumption?
Correct. So, yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Go ahead, Vinod.
Yeah, no, I think one of the great things about ClearDocs is that you can do it in your own, and especially if you're designing your own, whatever, is like it's designed so that counterparties or external vendors don't have to change their process, right? They give you data the way they've always given you the data. You just need to be able to consume that data, and so you're normalizing their data point, right? So New York Harbor, right? Some people say NY Harbor, others say NYH, right? Others spell the whole thing out, you know? So others will put NY in parentheses and then dash harbor. Like all of that is saying the same thing, but in your system, you've got it spelled out as New York Harbor. So you don't have to normalize, you just have a way to normalize all of these kind of ways that it's coming in. If it's coming in from these counterparties or these vendors, this is what it is. And there is a bit of work in that, right? There's a little bit of mapping and normalization. There's work to be done in that. But once that's done, it just goes from there. So there is a lift for all of these, regardless of how you roll this out. But once you have it set up and you're able to normalize that data, it becomes very efficient.
And
Great.
Vinod brings up a great point. Unlike, so we're starting to, I won't name other products, but we're starting to roll people off of another product where both sides of the transaction have to pay fees and have to upload files in the same format. This goes through and finds all of your data, and it finds key terms to say, oh, this probably means this probably means that. And then statistically, for all of those probablys to match, it would be impossible for those to just happen to match and make sense. And it learns and gets better as it goes.
And I just want to add to that, what they just described was a nightmare from a technical perspective, but now it's made so much easier with these new tools.
Excellent. Well, actually, that relates to a couple of questions that came in from the audience. Talking about where this, where sort of the AI adds more value. The two questions were how much change, or how much of this efficiency is due to LLMs and generative AI versus more traditional machine learning efforts? And then a related question, is there an AI element to the trade document checking versus standard OCR technology? And I think we just touched on that a bit. Can you please expand? So I guess, how have we moved from, what's changed since, I guess, these other technologies?
I can take that, Howard. I think that before everything was, you had to give it a certain rules and conditions. If this, if that, and you had to kind of account for every single rule. But now we have, like I said, decentralization of intelligence that they can go out there and find, just by looking at the data, find that for us. And you no longer have to create these elaborate machine learning programs, which is still very manual in the process, coming up with the model, testing your model. Now your AI kind of generates that for you to give you a head start at tackling some of those issues.
Excellent. Well, we're getting to the end of the time allotted. Unfortunately, there's a lot of questions, but we will send these off to the panelists afterwards so they can see what some of the questions were. And if you'd like to reach out, of course, please do. I'm going to end with just a final question. So one quick statement from everybody. If you'd like to leave us with one quick, pithy closing thought, what would it be? And I'm going to start with Vinod.
I would say, start small, start small with something that you feel you have a good control over, that you can learn in that space, with whatever tools of automation, AI that you're going to approach, and learn from it. It's not going to go smooth. There's going to be things that go wrong, and you're going to expand from it. But let that be your guide, and then from there grow out. You don't have to see it as that it has to be big bang kind of stuff. Start small with something that it may not even be the most riskiest thing that you have, but so that you and your team and your organization get comfortable with using AI and see what the potential is, and from there grow out.
Excellent. Chris?
I would say don't be tempted to try to do self-help in public AI stuff. I have a colleague at another shop who found out that one of his contract people was uploading all of their contracts to a public AI to do summaries, and thought that was a very smart idea. this is a very controlled AI where it isn't publicly available. It is not, it learns from itself. But I think AI is very powerful, but it also has to be controlled and make sure that you're considering confidentiality when working on any sort of AI projects.
Excellent. Reggie?
Yeah, I think that you have to start with the business objectives first. I think AI will transform this industry, but the real advantage belongs to those who know how to align machines with their mission.
Wonderful. And last but not least, Rick.
Thanks. I'll just take off from Bernard. Yes, we encourage companies to start small, pick a use case, get used to it. But what I would encourage on top of that is start. Gen AI is clearly a disruptor. It's a means for driving down costs and reducing risk. Your competitors are using it. If you don't start, you'll be left behind.
And that brings us to the conclusion of today's webinar. Thank you so much. A huge thank you to all our panelists for sharing their expertise and their insights. And thank you to all of you participating from your desks for joining us and engaging with your thoughtful questions, poll results, and interactions. So thanks so much. If today's discussion has sparked some interest in how automation can help enhance your risk strategy, ClearDox is here to help. So their innovative solutions are designed to bring greater accuracy, efficiency, and control to trading operations, processes across the commodity and energy sectors. So once again, thanks to ClearDox for hosting this today, making this possible. And again, thank you for everybody for being part of this discussion. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Stay connected, keep the discussion going, and we'll see you soon on another webinar. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Howard.
Thanks, Howard.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.